most good news. Mentioned the sanctions. He said, yeah, the sanctions have had an effect on Russia, but not as big as an effect as people thought they would. He says we've managed to sort of cope. He says, but some of the people that are waging the sanctions are finding it difficult as well. He says the Western countries have cut their links. A lot of the companies have cut links with Russian companies. And he mentioned the theft of Russian assets, which had been held abroad. I'm not an international lawyer, so I don't know the legalities of this or where you would ever go. He didn't go into detail whether this was assets of personal people, you know, like these oligarchs with yachts or football teams and stuff like that. Houses. He didn't mention whether it was personal assets or whether this was assets of the Russian government, which were held possibly in banks or other central banks. He didn't go into it in detail. He did say, you know, there's been a theft of Russian assets abroad, which were held abroad. Says the West are trying, by doing that, they're trying to destabilize Russia. He says, but the West may find that Russia is more resilient than they thought. And I think he said something along the lines that, you know, Russian people are pretty resilient. He says we've still got a solid base for the economy. He says, yes, the GDP has went down. He says, but it hasn't went down by the expected amounts that the Western countries were predicting of like a quarter. He says it's went down by a couple of percent. He says this is making Russia try to be more independent, especially from the US dollar. He says there's always like a pressure on spending. He says in this situation, he says it's the old butter or guns. He says, do you like butter being the social programs and helping people out, or guns being the military? And I think he was like alluding that the present time, you're just gonna have to have margarine, because we need the money that we've got for the war. That sort of summed most of it up. I thought he was calm. He didn't get excited. He wasn't banging the table. He wasn't screaming and shouting. He wasn't hysterical. I thought some of the things he said he could have explained slightly clearer. I thought there was too much non-core stuff in there. I didn't think he had a direct message, you know, where you build on the points successively, like, you know, 1, 2, 3, because 1, 2 up. And there was to a certain extent, but I found it rambling. It's obviously being translated because I don't either speak or understand Russian. So the lady that was translating it seemed to be doing a pretty good job, I can't tell. And she seemed to be keeping up with where he was with the speech. I think it's addressed to the Russians, basically saying, you know, this is what's going on. These are the things which I'm trying to do to get it done. has not gone back, or back in the Donbass, people were in it. The West thinks we're weak. The West's attacking one on every front. We've coped so far. It wasn't one of those, Winston, Randolph, whatever the other name was, Herbert, Churchill speeches. It wasn't, we'll fight them on the beaches stuff where you've got a cadence and you've got a progression, and you're sort of building up people as heckles. You're getting people like raw, yeah. It was, to my mind, it was flat. You'd have to go through the text. It was quite long. I think for most people, they can only hold like stories in their head. This was just, to my mind, was all over the place. I think he needed to tell a story of it going through. I don't think he achieved, to me, I don't think he achieved that. I wouldn't think it would change anybody's perception in the West. I think most of the people in the West have decided which side that they're supporting, if you want to call it that. I've read some of the media and stuff like that reports on it. I thought they got most of the points okay, but they read some adjectives into it which I wouldn't ascribe to the speech. The American response to it is basically, well, you know what it's going to be, beforehand and stuff like that. They'll just knock it out of the way, say it's a load of rubbish and stuff like that. I would have liked for them to have outlined, if you want to use one of these, terms which gets overused, a roadmap to peace. I would have liked to have highlighted what needs to happen to get peace. As far as I'm aware, he didn't do that. I would have thought that would be a good part to put in there, because he said that they're going to support the Donbass and he wants future generations to be better off in that area and in Russia. From that basis, you would think, well, the war's got to finish sometime. How do we get there? To cross the river, you've got to step in the water. Well, you've got to build a bridge. But I didn't get any of that. My personal thing, I want them to be at peace. I want both sides to get out and stop it. I cannot see it happening at the present time. I think the Americans are, as Putin says, Russian phobic. It's just endless wars. Take a look back at America since World War II. There's barely a couple of years goes by that they're not involved in some war somewhere. Korea, Vietnam when I was a kid. in stuff like that. I can remember being in Oslo speaking with some Norwegian lads when I was in Norway when I was about 17 or 18, you know, discussing the war in Vietnam. 17-year-old kids shouldn't be doing that. You know, then we had the Iraqi things in Syria, Afghanistan. Now we've got Ukraine, like a proxy. I'm not going toe-to-toe with you. I'm not going to have the US troops because, you know, the Americans didn't like the body bags going home. Neither should any country. I like Americans. I work with American lads. I like America. I'm not too keen on the American governments, though. But then again, I'm not too keen on the British governments either. So I don't think he made the most of it for being a big speech. I would have liked to have seen a clear dank. This is how it started. This is what we've done. This is what we need to do to get out of here. I'm offering you this. This is what I'm offering you. Come and meet us halfway. From what he said in the speech, though, it's, you can see he doesn't trust the EU people, doesn't trust the French or the Germans. Maybe he trusts Macron. Don't know. But obviously the people that were there before Macron don't trust him. Anyway, that was my sort of take on Putin's speech. Thank you.